Imagine for a moment you are following a star, a bright guiding light in the sky leading you somewhere unknown, but divinely significant. Along the way there are dangers, decisions, and moments of uncertainty, but you keep walking because deep down you know this journey is important. The story we're about to reflect on is about wise men who followed a star, a family that fled from danger, and a divine purpose unfolding despite difficult circumstances. Today we'll explore key moments in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2, and what they can teach us about faith, obedience, and God's protection in our lives. The visit of the Magi, seeking God in unexpected places. In Matthew 2, we learn about the Magi from the east, also known as the wise men, who see a bright star signaling the birth of the Messiah. They embark on a journey to find the newborn king led by this mysterious light. What's amazing here is that the Magi were not Jewish scholars or part of God's chosen people, but Gentiles, foreigners drawn to Jesus. Now think about this. God can call anyone from any background to seek him. Sometimes God shows up in ways we don't expect, and our job is to be open to his call and follow where he leads, even when we don't fully understand the destination. The Magi's journey teaches us that seeking God requires humility, persistence, and trust. They didn't know exactly where they were going, but they followed faithfully, trusting that they would find something extraordinary. Herod's deception, the reality of opposition. As the Magi followed the star, they encountered King Herod, who heard about the birth of a new king and became jealous. Pretending to be interested in worshiping the child, he asked the Magi to return to him with information about where the child was. But Herod's heart was filled with deceit and selfish ambition. He saw the birth of Jesus as a threat to his power, and behind the scenes, he was plotting to destroy him. Think about this. In our journey of faith, we will face opposition. There will be forces, whether people, circumstances, or inner doubts, that try to derail us. Herod's deception reminds us that we must be discerning. Not every voice is from God, and not everyone who claims to support us has pure intentions. But like the Magi, if we remain faithful and attentive to God's guidance, he will protect us from harm. God warned the Magi in a dream not to return to Herod, and they obeyed, returning home by another route. The escape to Egypt, God's protection in difficult times. After the Magi leave, an angel appears to Joseph in a dream, warning him to take Mary and Jesus and flee to Egypt to escape Herod's wrath. Joseph doesn't hesitate. He wakes up, takes his family, and immediately leaves for Egypt. This journey was not easy. Fleeing in the middle of the night to a foreign land with a young child? It would be tough. Yet Joseph trusted God's warning and obeyed. Think about this. Sometimes God's plans for our safety and future involve taking us out of our comfort zones. Egypt represents a place of refuge, but it was also a land of hardship for the Jewish people in the past. Yet God sent his Son there to protect him. This story teaches us that even in times of uncertainty or discomfort, God is watching over us, providing us with protection and leading us to places that will sustain us. When we feel fear or uncertainty, we must remember Joseph's example of trusting and acting on God's direction, even when the path is unexpected. The massacre of the innocents, the battle between good and evil. Herod, furious that the Magi did not return to him, ordered the killing of all boys 2 years old and under in Bethlehem. This horrific act shows the lengths to which evil will go to oppose God's plans. It was a dark moment in history, filled with grief and loss. Think about this. The presence of evil in the world can be overwhelming, but we must remember that God's plans cannot be stopped. The massacre of the innocent children is a painful reminder that evil exists. But it is also a call for us to be vigilant and steadfast in our faith. In the face of injustice and suffering, we must trust that God is still at work, and his greater plan for good will ultimately triumph, just as Jesus was saved and later fulfilled his purpose. The return to Nazareth, the fulfillment of God's plan. After Herod's death, an angel again appears to Joseph, telling him it's safe to return to Israel. Joseph listens and takes his family back, but instead of returning to Bethlehem, they settle in Nazareth. This fulfilled what was spoken by the prophets, that the Messiah would be called a Nazarene. Think about this. God is always faithful in his promises. What may seem like detours or delays in our lives are often part of God's greater plan. Nazareth wasn't a place of prominence, but it became the home of Jesus, the Savior of the world. Our journeys may take us through unexpected places, but God is working through it all to fulfill his purpose for our lives. Trust his timing, trust his leading, and know that he is weaving everything together for good. Now, as we reflect on Matthew 2, let's remember the powerful lessons of faith, trust, and God's protection. Like the Magi, we are called to seek God in unexpected ways. Like Joseph, we are called to listen and obey, even when the path ahead is uncertain. And like the story of Jesus, we are reminded that evil cannot thwart God's plans. The journey of faith is not always easy, but it's always guided by a loving and faithful God. Let us continue to trust his guidance, seek his presence, and remember that every step we take is part of a greater purpose. As you leave here today, keep the image of the star in your mind. It's a reminder that God is leading you, even through the darkest nights, to his light and his purpose for your life. Trust the journey, trust the star, trust the one who has set it before you. Thank you. Tomorrow we'll discuss Matthew chapter 3.